Hey,
Oh,
Damon, good morning, man. Why don't you kick us off, will you please?
all right. Thank you. We got a couple of technical issues back here. Welcome once again. It's Monday and it's time for manufacturing e-commerce success. And I am so excited for our guest today because we're going to be talking about B2B e-commerce solutions and the dire cost of doing nothing. I'm your co-host, Damon Pistulka, and that pretty gentleman right over there. So excited coming back from his trip, seeing the Savannah Bananas this weekend is Curt Anderson. Let's take it away, my friend.
Damon, let's dive in, dude. Hey, how was your weekend, by the way? Did you have a good weekend? Did you survive?
Yes. Yes, we did.
Good weekend.
We did.
Well, I hate to tell you, mine was stellar. If it was any better, you might have to call the emergency room to find me because it was just phenomenal. So, caught a little USA rugby. The United States rugby team played Scotland. We won't say what the score was, but we're proud of our wonderful rugby team. Showed, and as a matter of fact, they were at the hotel that I was at. So that was
nice.
A little extra. Yeah, how cool was that? So got to see some of our USA rugby guys taking on the international team. So that was Friday night, and then it caught the Savannah Bananas. Man, if anybody out there, connect with Jesse Cole on LinkedIn. What he is doing for baseball, for kids across the country is just spectacular. But just talking about powerhouse businesses, man, we've got our dear friend. We've got a powerhouse on the stage here today, RJ Stevens. RJ, happy Monday. How are you, dude?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm excited. What better way could you start the week than with this power trio?
That's right, man. Man, I like that. So, hey, let's dive in. So, RJ, I have a bunch of questions. E-commerce extraordinaire. You know, our show is called Manufacturing E-commerce Success. I don't know if there's a human being on the planet that really fits the title of the show better than you do, my friend. However, we're going to take a little step back in time, if we could, please. RJ, when you were a little guy growing up, okay. Now, did you grow up? Now, I saw that you're fighting Illini. Did you grow up? Where did you grow up at?
I did. I grew up in the corn and soybean fields of Central Illinois, not that far from Champaign. So that was, small town USA, a whole John Mellencamp song going on there.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, hey, that is absolutely fantastic. I'm a huge Big Ten guy myself. So, a little guy growing up in Illinois, please share with us who was your hero? Who was your hero as a little guy growing up in the central part of Illinois?
Well, I mean, you got to think about the time that I was growing up, but I don't necessarily want to overly date myself, but I think this may do it. So at that time, like my sport of passion was football. And so it's probably not that much of a leap to understand where I'm going to throw my allegiance there. So for me, at that time, it was Walter Payton. Right? Like just somebody who embodied hard work, determination, came out of a tiny little school. I think Jackson State wasn't highly regarded and became, arguably one of, if not the best running back in NFL history. And was just always, did so much community outreach and was just such a stellar pillar of the community and the organizations. I mean, he was someone to aspire to be in so many different ways.
Well, phenomenal answer. Couldn't agree with you more. I'd even one step further, possibly one of the greatest football players of all time. And even more so, what a great man he was.
Yeah.
How about all right, let's piggyback on that right there. RJ, how about his nickname? Could you please share? How about a little pop quiz?
Sweetness. I mean, come on, what a great nickname, right? Like just sweetness.
You knew that one, Damon. So anyway, so any of our friends out there that are under an age, a certain age, right? Might have to Google Walter Payton. His nickname was Sweetness. How about his tagline, RJ? Do you know his tagline?
His tagline? I do not know that I know his tagline.
Damon, any ready?
No, I knew Sweetness, but I'm done after that.
Never die easy. Mr. Walter Payton, never die easy. So that's, I do a lot of workshops in Chicago, so I need to know that answer. So that's so sweetness, never die easy. Look up Walter Payton. What a great way to kick off the program. Talk about inspiration. So let's go here, RJ. So you bring your talents, your skills, your passion, your expertise to the great state of Illinois. You're fighting Illini in Champaign. When you got out of college, what inspired you? I saw if you go connect with RJ on LinkedIn. Great, what a fascinating journey, incredible career that you've had. Looks like you were at Gold's Gym at one point. How did you transition into technology? How did you find yourself in e-commerce?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? I mean, when I first went to Illinois, I actually started in computer science and math, right? And I kind of probably didn't realize I'd maybe bitten off more than I could chew at that point. You know, you're young, you feel like you can conquer the world, and you know the same computer science program that I was in would be the computer science that Mark Andreessen went through before he, you know, created the Mosaic browser and all that sort of
Right.
stuff.
Ooh.
So I shifted over into business because that's something I could more manage. And then, you know, I was very much into health and fitness for a long time, and I was in, you know, that led me into the space of being in running health clubs, trying to actually start a chain of health clubs, and I'd done that for a while. And you know, sometimes life just works in a funny way. And one day, a woman that I had sort of, you know, sold membership to, know, she just came and said, "Hey, you know, have you ever thought about getting out of the fitness industry? Because if so, I'm a recruiter and I actually have an opening at a technology firm I think you'd be perfect for." And she had no idea that I had kind of a computer science background, or that's where I started. And that was my initial foray going into, I was in recruiting. And very quickly, one of the first companies I called me back and said, "You know, we're not really looking for any staffing solutions, but we'd like to hire you as our first sales rep." And that was a SaaS company back in 2000. I helped take that company public, and then just kind of went on from there. And then over time, being in sales leadership roles, CRO, VP of sales, I just got to the point where, you know, I was being asked oftentimes to sell things to drive revenue versus things really that the client, that I believe they needed. And so in order to really have a company that just, you know, aligned with my values and ideals, I decided the best way to do that was to start one on my own. So that's what I did. That's what my partner and I have done, and it's done very well. And it's very client centric, and we pride ourselves on just giving honest advice. Just as if you had a dear friend in e-commerce, what would they tell you? That's why our name is Friends of Commerce, is that we become your friend, and we just want to give you our honest, you know, opinion that has no sort of revenue outcome tied to it. And if we can end up helping you, great. And if we can just give you advice, that's fine too.
Wow, that's fantastic. And so
Yeah.
you know what, you kind of you led right into my next question. So, you know, as CEO, co-founder of Friends of Commerce, I'd like to take that one step further. And I love that. It's, you know, you pride yourself in just being that friend, that partner, that Sherpa, the guide that's going to walk you through e-commerce. We're going to dive into it. Damon, you mentioned the title, The Dire Cost of Doing Nothing. That is typically one of the biggest competitor, especially for manufacturers, to get into e-commerce. Walk us through, RJ, that early days. I think, was it 2019 when you launched your company? Can you walk us through, like, when you started the company, what did that look like? And we want to dive into how you help manufacturers navigate this whole e-commerce thing.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. At the time, you know, my co-founder, who's my CTO, had a company that was looking to go online. They didn't know how to do it. You know, he's a developer and a solutions architect by trade, and he's like, "Hey, I want to help this company, but I don't really know how to do it from a business perspective." I was at, I don't know, probably my 6th or 7th VC funded startup at that point in time. And I said, "Yeah, let's start up a company on the side. We'll help this company." That company's still a client to this day, by the way.
Nice.
Wow. And so we helped them launch one site, we helped them launch a second site. And all of a sudden we saw that there was just such a gap in the marketplace of companies. For us, you know, we focus on mid-market, and, you know, we started seeing that a lot of those companies just didn't know what to do, didn't know why they should be doing it, didn't have the resources to do it themselves. And so I kind of saw, and I think I've had this conversation with both of you gentlemen, like, I feel like we're trying to save that section of the market in a way from themselves. Not that they're trying to do anything, intentionally that's not helping their business, but that maybe the lack of understanding of why it's so important to take steps forward digitally. And with the market changing as fast as the market's changing, I kind of felt not only was it a great business opportunity, but I really could align to our values of just helping companies thrive, survive, succeed, all those things. So at that point in time, my partner and I decided both to sort of quit our day jobs, so to speak, because there's so much opportunity there, and just focus. And the business has kind of taken off since then.
Nice. Nice. Fantastic. And, and I like what you're saying there, RJ. It's not so much, not being critical or what somebody's not doing. It's just the lack of understanding or not having experienced it. If you haven't gone out and done something, we're talking about the Savannah bananas. If you haven't seen it, you're like, that sounds kind of crazy. But man, once you experience it, there's a lot to enjoy and a lot to appreciate. And that's a say. And I'll equate, Damon, I'm going to equate the Savannah bananas to e-commerce. How's that?
There you go.
There we go. So, hey, RJ, I want to share a couple of things. Damon, here's a few comments that people share about RJ. We've got to know RJ over the past couple of years here. We've been connected through our friends at BigCommerce, but this is what people say about RJ. RJ is honest, caring, thoughtful sales leader, does the right thing, and it was something I really admired and enjoyed working with him. RJ comes with a wealth of e-commerce industry experience as well as a solid approach to enterprise B2B sales. He's a straight shooter who puts clients and company first before himself, even if it seemingly puts an opportunity at risk. Next thing, RJ listens and partners with his internal team to ensure success. RJ goes above and beyond. RJ, where does this come from? Is this something did you take a class at Illinois, or how did you instill this dedication, work ethic? What's going on here?
I mean, if I had to really think about it, I'd say maybe it was just like my upbringing, right? Like, I come from a long lineage of farmers and sharecroppers, really, people that are just renting land, trying to, scratch out a living, planting seeds up to weather, all that sort of stuff. And also in a small town, there's a lot of community. So, people helping people and you just, that you sort of get what you give. So you're out helping all the time. And if you need help, people are right there without hesitation, right? It's like, one of the things, and I've lived in a lot of places, and one of the sort of like things that I think about as sort of a test of a place is, if I called somebody up, would they come help me move my sofa? Right. And there's places where, small town America, you'd have a line of people saying, I'm busy, but I'll drop my stuff. I'll come over and help you. How long do you need me? You get in other places, you get like people like, hey, I think my phone, I can't quite hear you, click, or, whatever it is, and nobody's coming, right? So I just think that sort of what's instilled with me, that sort of work ethic and helping your neighbor and helping others and being a giving person was something I saw examples all around me and I just grew up with. And so it's something, what's crazy to me is that now becomes maybe a differentiator, which I don't think is maybe the greatest statement about where we're at, societally and other things. But I just think if you just do right by people, you'll be surprised at how that comes back to you.
Yeah, exactly. We've got some good comments here too. I want to just hit those really quick. You got Oluwasi dropped in today, said he was happy to make it. And he had, he's talking about making an impact. And we got Camero is here today. And Oluwasi said something about that upbringing. That's important, RJ. That upbringing is awesome. Yeah. So, I tell you, there really is something to be said about just trying to help people, and not with looking for what it's going to get you in the future, but just trying to help people because, and people have heard it before. Zig Ziglar talked about it many times. If you help enough people, you have everything you want. And I think when we're younger, maybe, or when we're starting out in a business, it doesn't feel like that, but it certainly is the way it works.
Could not agree more. And if you do it from your heart, if you don't do it like, hey, I'm going to help this person to get something, if you just do it because that's what you want to do, that's where you really come through and shine. And it may not come back to you, the next day or the next week or the next month, but I think the more of that you do, you'll be surprised at the opportunities that present themselves to you because of that attitude you have.
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely. So, RJ, what I'd like to do next is I want to pull up your website, just kind of familiarize or just introduce our friends out here to the Friends of Commerce. And I just want to talk about your approach and, again, your dedication to being a fierce educator, helping people along their e-commerce journey. So let me give me 1 second. Let me dive in here. And so how about this? Can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
All right. So I've got Friends of Commerce, and using a curated network approach. Just talk a little bit. As a matter of fact, let me make this a little bit bigger. How's that look? That looks a little better.
Nice.
So, all right, just RJ, just talk a little bit about your approach. Just say there's a manufacturer out there and they're like, man, RJ, you called my bluff, man. We've been internally talking about this e-commerce thing for a long time. Not really sure how that would fit. Kind of walk us through that first time engagement and how that discovery, how you help people.
Yeah, well, I know that you guys have talked a lot about, what mistakes to avoid in going down a technology project or something like that. So I don't want to, backtrack on some of that. But for us, the most important thing is planning, really getting in and understanding, technologically and architecturally what systems are in place today, where identifying where there's risk, where there's manual process and inefficiency, where there's opportunity, and just, then working with a company to say like, look, I think a lot of reasons why there's maybe a hesitancy to embrace technology or to make change is just a lot of mid-market, manufacturers and distributors and wholesalers. It's just new to them. They just don't know.
Yeah.
So you kind of fear the unknown, right? A lot of times in our minds, we make something up to be way more difficult than it really is once you start doing it. And so for us, it's just about breaking things down, getting a plan and breaking it down into small, manageable steps. That mitigates risk, that makes it easier to gather information as you go. So we go through that process with someone. And when we go through that process, at the end of that process, we typically do that right now. We're doing that at no cost. We invest a lot of time to give them that. And we're like, hey, if you want to take this and use it internally, you want to take it and go somewhere else, then that's fine. What we found is that we build up such an understanding and relationship with the company at that point in time, it makes for a really good kickoff for a partnership. Mm-hmm. So the other thing, and the pages that you're on here, one of the things that I think is a big differentiator for us is we take a fractional approach to our projects. Mm-hmm. So Friends of Commerce is a fractionally staffed organization. We have probably 50 to 70, depending upon how many projects we are going, consultants and teams on projects at any one point in time. But for our clients, they're only paying for what they use. And so it enables a greater level of efficiency in the application of resources, because you're not hiring a full-time CIO or CTO or head of, the cost to get talented people right now is insane. So for us, it's how do you use just a little bit of what you need when you need it to move the project forward. So it really is a very efficient delivery approach. And so that's kind of the pages you're on now. And I think that's another thing that sort of sets us apart is that we're able to do all the planning, we're able to break it down into steps, and then we're able just to apply the resources necessary with incredibly qualified and curated and vetted experts that we orchestrate to do a great job. And that's sort of our approach to the project, whether that's, any aspect of a B2B project from a commerce perspective.
Yeah. All right. Perfect segue. And I want to dive into this, RJ, because I think there's a big distinction between, so a lot of manufacturers, when they hear e-commerce, they're like, well, we're in the B2B space. We're not selling individual widgets on Amazon. We're selling, we're part of, the supply chain line. Maybe we're third tier, whatever that might look like. What I love is that you are truly a B2B expert. Can you just share a little bit on what differentiates you from, say, the folks on the street that are helping retail, Main Street, that type of thing? Just share how you speak B2B and you speak manufacturing. Yeah. Well, and in past lives, we've done tons of huge B2C, global brand work. But with B2C, I would kind of classify that more as it's all about the sizzle. What does the site look like, and how snazzy is it? And I want all these cool features, all sort of stuff. Whereas with B2B, it's more about the steak. It's the data. It's the integration. It's doing, and those things can be very complicated. You can't just have an average team execute that piece of the project. Yeah. That is the backbone. So understanding data and integrations is core to what we do, and really the foundation of all the B2B work, which enables the site to function and be, high performing. You're dealing with complex inventory, you're dealing with complex pricing rules, you're dealing with complicated buying processes, many buyers and different credit limits and different authorizations and budgets, and all that sort of stuff is nowhere not usually in a B2C space, but in B2B, it's all day, every day. And the other thing is that
each B2B company is unique. They all have their own nuance. It isn't a cookie cutter. You can't just, hey, I did this for this company over here, I'm gonna do the exact same thing for you. Does not work. So you have to kind of get that core foundation built specific to that particular B2B company, or else nothing's going to work beyond then.
Yeah. All right. Absolutely fantastic. So one thing that I want to circle back on, you talked about that, if I heard you correctly, that phase approach, where so often it's, I don't like that eat the elephant expression, Damon. I need a new one, but just trying to tackle everything all at once. RJ, can you just walk us through a little bit? And again, this is for the manufacturer out there that this is completely new to them. They've been thinking about it. They want to go this direction. They need to align with you. Walk us through like that phased approach.
Yeah. And if you can just scroll to see that picture right there a little bit on your screen, go the other direction, please. Right there. Go down just a bit. The computer image.
Oh, right there.
Yeah, right there. So that is an example of a technology architectural diagram that we would build for a client, right? We go in, we understand what ERP you're using, what are you using a product information management system, you're using a warehouse management system. What are you using for, where do you have CRM? Do you have, what are all you have, and how is that all, architected, and where's all the data going? And like I say, how many manual processes are in there, that sort of thing. So we would create a blueprint just like this. And then what we do is we understand, okay, what we would go, the first phase would be what we would call an MVP, which is a minimum viable product. Like, what is the necessary pieces you have to have a good experience in your step one, to where your customers would adapt to it. It's going to meet their needs, and you can start to promote it to, potentially new prospects. I think the stats out there right now are something like, 75% of B2B buyers want to do most all of their research online first, right? So your site needs to be there. Your site needs to have content. You probably need to be doing some sort of search engine marketing stuff, which you can do along the way. And so, building all that in there and defining, okay, what is critical in phase one, and then getting that stood up. That's going to minimize budget, minimize timeline also. So you're launching something in, 3 to 4 months, and you could start to get your ROI, right? Get that payback, right? I saw another stat recently where it said, B2B companies that are investing in e-commerce achieve a 400% ROI in their first 5 years for that investment. So, if you start today, you're going to get that ROI faster versus starting, because a lot of people are like, I'll get around to it. They never get around to it, right? So breaking it into that MVP, starting to get transactions, you're also starting to see, what are people searching for? Where are they going on your site? You're getting these insights you've never had before to enable you to make better decisions, both online and offline. Then that's going to dictate what phase two looks like, because you're always going to find some things you didn't expect, right? You're always going to do that. So instead of doing this, back in the day, you used to do this big bang, like somebody would go away for a year or so and come back and go, ta-da! And the customer would go, well, that's not exactly what I wanted. So now, we break it into little steps, mitigate risk, learn along the way, iterate as we go. It is just a way better approach, that agile approach to development.
That's a great point to bring up in these kind of situations, because really, when you talk about e-commerce, you talk about digital solutions for customer interaction, you really need to take a step-by-step approach. And this is where I think, and I'm just going to say it, I think a lot of the ERP companies are really falling behind, because there's all these technology pieces that have to come together. And when you talk about interoperability, you talk about the changes in technology and stuff, your approach allows you to really harness that, because you can do the first step and realize that the second step that you wanted to do in this process has changed completely because technology has changed. And if we would have went through the whole thing, we would have built the house on old technology that we should have never even thought about.
Could not agree more.
Yeah. So what are some of the things that you're seeing now that's really exciting in what you're doing?
Well, I mean, we are seeing, I think something else, we're seeing more companies that sort of are embracing, what I would call digital transformation, but that's also sort of a big, scary term, right? People think that, oh, we're going to, turn our world upside down. No, we're going to take one small step about moving you in a different direction. But, we are seeing companies, and look, I think that the market is forcing this in a way, right? I just did some work last week. We were doing some research on mid-market B2B companies, and we found in the stats of 550 companies that we reviewed, there was only 100 that were doing, digital commerce. So like 18%, right? The 80% still aren't doing anything.
Yeah.
And I don't think, I think, Curt, I had this conversation with you. I think it's sort of the frog in the hot pot, right? The water's starting to get hotter, and if you wait until it's boiling, you're pretty much cooked.
You're cooked.
Yeah.
So, the goal is, how do you sort of understand that the market's doing that, the market's changing? Like most larger enterprise companies already understand that the demands of their customers are changing faster than they can innovate. But I think in the mid-market, it's sort of there's sort of a cognitive bias of just, hey, I'm just going to focus on what I know and what I've always done. But the market's sort of eroding around you in that scenario. So I do think there are people that are starting to realize, hey, look, I've got to try to catch up, or my company is in significant risk, which is true. And I don't, I know that people tend to move more from fear instead of, getting some positive feedback on it. But I think the market is really a forcing function there. And also the sort of generational changes that are happening in buyers right now. I think the average B2B buyer right now, like something like 75 to 80% of them are Gen Z or younger, right? So it's like they expect to be able to be on their phone and order. They expect to be able to go to a self-service portal at, Saturday at 7 p.m. and look at all their past order histories and where things are happening. And if you're not doing that, and we've had companies come to us as well and say, hey, look, our largest clients are starting to leave, and they told us they loved us, they like our products, and they want to stay, but it's just difficult to buy from us and difficult to support us. I mean, this one particular company I'm talking about, people would want a report. They would send them an email, give me a report of how all these locations are doing for this product. The company somebody would read that email, type up what the report would be, send it off to their IT department. Their IT would run the report. It would take 2 or 3 days. They would send them an Excel spreadsheet. Then that customer service rep, when they're there from 9 to 5 during the day, would attach that to an email and send it back to their customer. The whole thing took a week or so. Like the only thing that they weren't doing was sending a fax. But other than that, it was all, in the Stone Ages.
Yeah.
And like that, buyers are demanding more, and they may not even tell you. They may just go away. And you may think, it's, revenue's down. Well, revenue's down because you're not making it easy to work with. And so, I am seeing more companies that are sort of waking up to that. I think the goal for me for conversations like this is to get more companies just to start to consider. The whole thing is like, you've got to break that inertia and just start looking at things, educating, thinking about it. That will sort of demystify some of these fears and apprehensions and things that, they feel like they're maybe going to lose control. You're not going to lose control. You're actually going to get more control and more insight. And, you will find that the journey isn't as daunting as one would think beforehand. So I think that's, a good thing we're seeing, but we need to see more of it, candidly, especially in this mid-market space.
Yeah.
Well, Damon, multiple drop the mics in there. And I think the big one, RJ, I first off, kudos to you for that. We need to slice out what you just said.
Yeah.
And that might be replayed over and over here, Damon. But I think what's so important is, RJ, one thing Damon and I love to say, the E in e-commerce stands for easy commerce. And if you're not making it easy for your customer, I don't care how much you're friends with them, you send them holiday cards or, birthday wishes or whatever, golf course, whatever it is you do, you can be best friends with them. But if you're not making it easy, you're just putting yourself at a severe disadvantage, as you're mentioning.
Yeah.
That is such a powerful statement. If we could slide into, I'd like to pull up an example, if we could, of one of your clients. Can we jump into that now?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
All right, let's jump in. So, hey, as I like to say, we have Iowa Customs, Damon. So
Yep.
let's go here, RJ. What's going on? This is a client of yours. This is somebody who's dedicated to that digital transformation. You've talked about digital self-serve, easy commerce, however you want to label it. Just what's going on with this client?
Yeah, so this client makes custom manufactured accessories for semi trucks, as you can see here.
Yeah.
They're a very successful company based out of Iowa, as you said. And Terry Werzer, their CEO, has an engineering background, so he understands technology to an extent. What was fascinating about this company is they had already sort of applied technology to their manufacturing process. They had robots doing their manufacturing, all these things in efficiency. But before we met them, if you went to their website, you could either do one of two things if you wanted to buy some from them. One is they had a downloadable catalog, which they still have there, right? That was it. There was no dealer portal. There was no online ordering. Or two, you called the company. And if you called the company and you press 1 for sales, it rang the CEO's cell phone, right? Like, how do you run? Like, he's like, I am the bottleneck. We are the bottleneck. We need to make it easy for our customers to buy from us. So we went in, we learned everything we needed to know about, when you actually downloaded their catalog, they would ask their clients. Now, they don't sell direct to truck drivers. They sell to distributors.
Yeah.
They would ask their distributors to be able to call them in with the SKU. Now, the distributors had to know how to build a SKU. So you had to go, okay, I want a mud flap. That's, 75-J2. I want it for this type of truck, a Peterbilt. That's 47Y. So now those two things go together. And I want it in stainless steel. That's SSX. So they had to know all that stuff and call it in and make an order, right? The other thing I saw is that the amount of data input errors in order taking is like 5%, and each error costs hundreds of dollars in time and bad customer experience to your customers. So, but that's just what they did, right? So now we built them an online dealer portal where the dealers can go in, reorder what they've ordered in the past, put in a new order. They have authorized people that can either make orders or that can set up a cart, and somebody in finance can actually make the order. So it's basically been providing them more the sales and interaction technology piece where they'd already solved the manufacturing technology piece. And this is going to unlock a lot of growth opportunity for them. The other thing I would say is, when I was talking to Terry, is they had trouble finding people that wanted to do the data entry or that were sophisticated enough, I don't mean that, but to understand the complexities of their product. And he's like, look, I am having a hard time hiring people to do this. If I could put it online and do it through, a commerce platform, that's a win for me, because now I don't need to hire as many people, which I couldn't do anyway, and it's better for my clients. So there was a lot of other wins that came from this from an efficiency perspective. Mm-hmm. And the last thing I would say is, for companies that are out there that are almost exclusively relying on their customer service people to take orders, there's tons of studies out there that talk about client retention and or employee retention and employee satisfaction with their job. They want to be learning new things. They want to have stronger skills. So if you're keeping them, you doing things that are decades in the past, as far as your business goes, you're also risking, employee attrition.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and like you said here, the way that you can set up configurators now, even for a distributor to understand how to make the appropriate SKU that they want to order, if you make that a simple process that says and prompts them through it all, that's the reduction in errors. I just finished a project with a client that we literally spent, I don't even want to say how much money, cleaning up 5 years of bad data in a situation like this, where you can't use the data. The data leads to tons of mistakes, tons of lost cost and time down the road, where a configurator type situation where it makes you you've got certain choices in each section that matches all the way through their manufacturing process, you get the product you really wanted to order.
Well, and go look at, pick a handful of mid-market sites where it says request a quote. I was just doing this today. I clicked on it and it took me to a phone number.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Like you can build that online right now, almost irregardless of the complexities of what it takes.
Yeah. I was on a site, and I brought this up in a previous episode where we were looking at bigger companies, Haas, HAAS, Machine Center Manufacturing Company in the US. They do thousands of machines every year. You can order a $200,000 machine on there, right down to the color of the tray in the back or whatever the heck you want to do, and place your order. Push the button.
Yeah. And then I bet all of the supply parts and all the additional stuff, they know it goes to that model. Now you've got a curated list of those things, makes it easy to find those. Oh, I need this. I did a project a long time ago for a company that was like a recycled paper company. They had a machine the size of a football field.
Wow.
And there was, I don't know how many millions of parts, but you could just go. And if you make, especially now with some of the enhancements in search capabilities and product structure capabilities, you can make it pretty easy for somebody in a couple of clicks to get to the exact part they want, instead of them flipping through a catalog or calling customer success, taking hours, whatever it is. Make it near instantaneous. That's going to be a satisfied customer. That's going to be a repeat buyer.
Yeah. So many things to unpack. And Damon, I'm reading our good friend. We just had a guest recently, RJ. His name's Luis Velazquez. Yeah. And he talks about the difference between efficiency and effectiveness. And when you talk about, look at the effectiveness that you just listed. And I think the big thing is we start winding down here. For any and every manufacturer out there, you could be a small machine shop and you're like, hey, wait a minute, I just have a small amount of customers. Right here, you should be strongly considering, in their case, they call it the dealer portal. You should be strongly considering a customer portal. And as RJ just described, you're making it easier for your customer. You're reducing internal mistakes. You're reducing your cost of labor for a task that most people don't want to do anyway. You're preventing tons of mistakes. You're creating a much, much more robust customer experience. The list, there's endless wins here with no downside, and just it is no longer a nice to have. This is mission critical right here. So RJ, as we start winding down, any other things that you want to share as far as we go with our friends at Iowa Customs on their website?
No, but I think it's just indicative of like I have not run across a single type of company that couldn't benefit from adding digital to their mix, and whether it's in, like in this case, I've had companies that come on and they start with the portal first, because the customer service, customer support piece is really what the squeaky wheel is. And they add the sales piece later. I've worked with other companies where it's the sales side. They need to make their sales, more frictionless, make it easier, that sort of thing. And then the portal kind of comes as a fast follower. Doesn't matter where you start, pick a side, pick which one, and just get started doing something and just doing in manageable steps. And it can just, one of the things that I always say also is, there's no static. There's no steady state. You're either moving forward or you're moving backward. And if you don't know which one, you're going backward, because the competition's going forward.
Yes.
Right? Competition's making improvements. And if you don't know if you are, you're not, and you're going to be the frog in the hot pot. So it's important just to get started. And once you get started, you'll be amazed at the opportunities there for improvement, the improvement in efficiencies, and how that really sort of, gives you a path forward as a company in a way in more areas than you could imagine.
Yeah, I'll tell you what a powerful session. Again, I just want to wind down our friends out there. We're with RJ Stevens, CEO, co-founder of Friends of Commerce, just a high-level e-commerce extraordinaire, all sorts of wonderful solutions. RJ, I'm going to stop sharing. We'll start winding down. A quick question for you. Platform. Do you have I know we're mutual friends through the wonderful, amazing people at Big Commerce. Do you, what platforms, if somebody's out there listening, what platforms do you recommend for our friends in B2B or in manufacturing?
Yeah, I mean, we're an agnostic agency. We've worked on pretty much all the platforms that are out there. We have a ton of customers, especially in B2B, that are on BigCommerce, because BigCommerce, their sort of open SaaS technology, I think, is really a great hybrid between, having sort of the scalability and privacy and security where you need it, but the customizations and flexibility where you want it, right? So that's a great. We have customers on Shopify. We have customers on, I tend to say Magento, but it's Adobe. We have companies on custom developed solutions. There's so many platforms out there right now we've worked on most of them. We oftentimes also get brought in to help with an assessment of platforms. So we can do that for a company and try to help them figure out which platform best fits their needs in that area too. But we work across all the major ones, depending upon the specific use case for the client.
Yeah, love it. Awesome.
Yeah.
Damon, any comments that we want to grab before we wind down here?
No, well, comments. Yes. There's, let me see. There's a few of them in there. There's a lot of networking going on in the comments. Thanks for doing that, everyone. That's great to have it. We had, earlier we had Sadia dropped in. She said hello. It said, hey, everyone earlier. Just wanted to make sure we recognize her and coming into the chat.
How about this last one from Alawazi? He says, with a computer science background, I'm loving the modularity. Man, that was a tough word for me on a Monday.
Yeah, it is.
And ease of the e-commerce solutions RJ is sharing right now. Super exciting. So yes, and let's drop RJ's. You know what? If right on this post where you are on Damon's, you have RJ's LinkedIn profile is right in there. We strongly encourage you. We invite you to connect with RJ on LinkedIn. Check out Friends of Commerce. He has all sorts of just a wealth of information here, RJ. Please.
One thing I'd add is one thing we just launched is we did launch sort of a digital readiness, sort of survey on our site a couple of weeks ago. So if you don't know where you sort of sit, I think it's like 10 or 12 questions, takes a couple of minutes, and it's going to come back with a score. It's going to say, here's where you're strong. Here's where your risks are. Here's where your opportunity is, and it's a good way just to sort of see, because there's a bunch of different facets of an e-commerce solution, whether it's the ease of selling, whether it's accuracy, whether it's the ease of support, whether it is your own internal efficiencies. But pretty simple. I think it's a good first step for companies that want to think about it. So come to the site. It's there. It's free. It's just a way to get some information. No issues. I think all you need is your email address, just so we can send it to you.
Yep. Perfect.
Right.
Awesome, cool. RJ. So RJ, as we wind down on this wonderful, amazing, beautiful summer day, last question for you, my friend. As a CEO, co-founder of Friends of Commerce, could you please share? I love this. Love that. I can't wait for your feedback. What is the best business advice that you have ever received to help you be such a success with your company? What is the best business advice that you've ever received?
Yeah, I think it's really, really appropriate for this topic, right? I remember back when I was working at Demandware, which is now Salesforce Commerce Cloud, and I had a vice president, and he was a hockey player, right? And he was talking about, his dad was pretty, on him to be a hockey player. And he would come back from hockey practice frustrated, whatever. And his dad would just say, just move your skates. Just move your skates. And it was just like, just take action, right? If you keep moving, you'll be surprised where you're going to be. And the puck will be there sometimes. And you'll be like, oh my gosh, look where I'm at. Don't stand still. You got to move your skates. So I think getting moving, I think that's really important. I think it's very appropriate for this topic that we have, is the dire cost of doing nothing. Just start doing something, and you'll be surprised at how that starts to take on a positive life of its own and take you in directions and provide, returns and all the things from that. So I guess that would be the thing that I think is most relevant for today.
Boom.
Very cool.
Right. Drop the mic there. Drop the puck and move your skates, man. How about that one? So RJ, how about our friends out there? First off, huge thank you to our friends out there.
Yep.
And for those of us joining us, how about a huge round of applause for RJ for just dropping tons of value and incredible information and just your passion, your energy, your expertise. RJ, we thank you. We appreciate you. We applaud you, commend you on how you're helping our manufacturers be more competitive in this e-commerce space. It's daunting, overwhelming. We can just reach out to RJ. He's got your back. Damon, your parting thoughts. What do you think?
No, I just did, listening to you today just reinforces my thoughts around, modularity. Think of modularity, get your things, one step at a time and keep going. Cause you're going to, as soon as you get to where you think the end is, you're going to need to start again because there's a lot more opportunities once you figure out where, you're there. So good stuff.
I just appreciate both of you gentlemen for inviting me on. I think you've got a great platform here. I think you're doing great work. So it's certainly an honor for me to participate. And I think, we all share that same value, just helping, right? It's like, I think any one of us, you contact us, give you advice, help out in any way we can, no strings attached. Just, I hope that's something that people take away from this is reach out, find somebody you can talk to. They'll have a conversation with you. And that's usually that one step will start a string of other steps.
Yeah.
Amen, man. Amen. What a way to wrap up. So, hey, on this wonderful Monday in middle of summer, we wish everybody just an incredible, amazing week. And just, Damon, like we always like to say, just go out and be someone's inspiration, just like our friend RJ was for us today. And just you're going to make the world a better place. So, Damon, why don't you close us out? And God bless everybody. We're going to be back here. We have a killer guest on Friday. We have a family. We have a husband. We have a wife, we have a son, and we're going to be talking about how to run a thriving family business. Can't wait for Friday. So wishing everybody a great week. Damon, why don't you close us out?
All right, everyone. Thanks for being here today. I want to say Olu, MD, Sadia, Kamrul. There's so many people that were in the comments today. Thanks for being here today. Thanks for listening. If you got into this late, always go back to the beginning and listen. RJ dropped a ton of golden nuggets. We went through some of the web examples of what he's been doing. Just a lot of good stuff in here today. Go back to the beginning, start it over, watch it all the way through. Connect with RJ on LinkedIn too if you're interested in talking about this, and go to his Friends of Commerce website and download or get the digital readiness. I'm getting tongue-tied here. Do that because it's well worth it. You'll get some great information from that. We will be back again later this week. Doing it again. Thank you, everyone. RJ, hang out. We'll finish up off